From Tally to Cali,
It's time
to wake up.
Wake up! Wake up!
WarChant.com is your ultimate Seminole sports source.
And this is Wake Up Warchant, presented by Corner Pocket Bar and Grill.
One more corner pocket.
Now here's WarChant.com's Aslan Hajavandi.
And Corey Clark.
Wake up! What is up, everybody? Welcome into Wake Up Warchant, presented by Corner Pocket Bar and Grill. Coming up on today's show, the NFL Combine. Florida State shows out in a huge way. Ira Schoffel here to help us break it down. And we wrap up the weekend in basketball and baseball for the Noles. Wake Up Warchant, presented by Corner Pocket Bar and Grill, Tallahassee, Florida. CPTallybar.com. That is the website. You can always hit the QR code on your screen. We'll take you right to the website, so you don't have to listen to me read out the lunch special. But since you're here, everybody, Mondays, you build your own burger for only $8.99 from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. Half-pound all-black Angus beef burger, lettuce, tomato, onion, and pickle. Usually $12.99, but only $8.99. And it comes with a side dish of your choice: straight fries, curly fries, onion rings, potato salad, coleslaw, broccoli, side salad, tater tots, or freshly cooked potato chips. Shout out Sharon Clark. I met her this weekend. It's Corey's mom. What an absolute delight. Awesome human being. I love my mom, but if my mom wasn't around, I'd like for Sharon to hang out. She's incredible. She was awesome. She says that the freshly cooked potato chips, she got blue cheese potato chips. I think they put some blue cheese crumbles on them. She said they were great, but really the cheese curds are what set off her day when she went to the Corner Pocket. She was in Tallahassee for like 4 days, everybody. She got taken to the Corner Pocket 3 out of those 4 days. Son of the year, Corey Clark? Probably. WarChant.com, your ultimate Seminoles sports source. 5-star rating and review, please. Also hit the thumbs up. All right, so Corey got married this weekend. It was awesome. It was amazing. They had like an 8-foot-long charcuterie board of food. They had a queso fountain. It wasn't 8 feet tall, though, everybody. It was like 3 feet. It was on a table that was like 4 feet off the ground, so do the math. They had the donut cake. I thought it was going to be like a 3-tier cake that was donuts, but like you couldn't tell because they were wrapped in fondant, which I think is what they call this stuff, and like icing and everything. But no, man, I think it was just like a pile of donuts with like flowers all over it. It was incredible. And you can laugh at it, but it goes back to Stephanie's whole wisdom about like, I'm just going to bring donuts wherever I go somewhere. People will eat it. They'll enjoy it. Everybody had a donut. I had a donut. I'm not ashamed to say it. It was great. First dance was awesome. The farewell was cool. The sparklers, Brady Clark, just what a dude. If I could come back and do the whole adolescent high school thing, I'd want to come back and be Brady Clark. I wouldn't even want to be a 5-star dude. I just want to be Brady Clark. He's living life the way I wish I could live my life. Anyhow, it's going to be a weird week this week on the show since Corey's going to be out of pocket here. Understandably so. We'll do one other show this week with Ira. It'll be for your Friday enjoyment. It'll be observations from, that's right, Tour of Duty. We'll be out there bright and early. Gene Williams taking photos. Myself, Matt Lasser, taking video, most likely. I think we're going to have 2 videos going on at all times. Ira Schoffel will be there as well, and he'll jump on the podcast, and we'll share our observations of what we saw at Tour of Duty. That's Thursday. We'll see it. It'll be available. Videos, stuff on warchant.com. Podcast, you have to wait till Friday, though. So subscribe to warchant.com so you can see all the video. You can see all the footage. All the photos, all the observations from Ira and myself and Matt. We'll all share them, distill them down there. So hop aboard. It's going to be really fun. All right, so today's show, I thought try to produce a little bit of a segment to kind of wrap up the way things looked at the Combine for Florida State. Did guys make money? Did they lose money? Do I have the balls to come on a podcast and say that a guy lost money at the Combine? Tune in. You'll find out here in a few minutes. Then myself and Ira break down the Combine. So let's get it started. Indianapolis, 12 Florida State dudes. We started off with none other than Jared Verse.
I didn't know that Jared Verse would run again. He must want to try and get down the 4.5s. I might have posted that 4.6 and been good. There it is.
You know, every 100th of a second
Hey,
counts, Daniel.
We start with Jared Verse, his NFL Next Gen Stats breakdown, everybody, which combines your production score and your athleticism score. You combine those two for your total score. He scored an 84. That was second best for guys that are labeled as edge. His 4.58 40-yard dash, fourth best out of the defensive ends. 35-inch vertical, 10-7 broad jump. Broad jumps is you're standing in place and you just jump forward as far as you can. He did that 10 feet, 7 inches. Solid. His bench press, 31 reps of 225. That is ridiculous. Do the bar today, guys. Just do the bar for 31 reps. Maybe put 10 pounds on each side. Do 31 reps. See how you feel. He did 225 for 31. That was the best for all defensive ends. Verse came into the day that weekend as a first-round prospect. He's still probably the second best edge guy behind Dallas Turner, but that's a good place to be. He's firmly in the first round. Jared Verse, he made money. Renardo Green, his NFL next-gen stats score breakdown, 69. Nice, but not that nice because it was the 30th amongst all cornerbacks combining his production and athleticism score. 12th in production, though. That's good because he was very productive at Florida State. He ran a 4.49 40-yard dash, and he had a 10-10 broad jump. That was 6th best, if I'm not mistaken, out in Indy when it comes to cornerbacks. Had a 37.5-inch vertical jump. That, too, also very solid. The book on Renardo has to be just an extremely productive player, multiple positions, has overcome injuries to end up being one of the best cornerbacks in the entire conference. And I don't know about that 68 athleticism score, 28th out of the cornerbacks, but a sub-4 540 and a 10-10 broad, Renardo Green made money.
Let's take a look at the Keon Coleman gauntlet.
Yeah, I mean, Keon Coleman didn't run the fastest 40. That's not his game, but he's got excellent hands and ball skills, and you saw it in the gauntlet with how fast he was running. He's full speed, sprinting down this gauntlet.
Almost topping.
There he is. I mean, we saw the other one settling in that 17, 18 miles per hour. He got up over 20.
Keon Coleman mocked about as a first-round pick. You want to be mocked as a first-round pick. That's cool mocking. That's a really cool mocking. Indianapolis, not all that friendly to our guy from Opelousas, Louisiana, though. 66th was his athleticism score, which was 37th amongst wide receivers out in Indy this past weekend. His production was 18th, though, because he had really big games at Michigan State and Florida State. Some of that inconsistency, though, a little bit of a knock potentially on Keon. You heard about that gauntlet that he ran over 20 miles an hour as a human being on the open fields. That's really good. That's like football, right? That's football. That should matter. His 40, though, 4.61. That's great if you're you and me, anybody. But if we want to be a first-round pick in the NFL as a wide receiver, not a great showing. He also had a 38-inch vertical jump, which was well outside the top 10. He played basketball. I figured he was going to have at least like a 39.5. But you want to be like in a 40. You want to be special. You want to be elite, first-round pick wide receiver. And this broad jump at 10.7, that too was outside the top 10. I think that was even behind Johnny. So go figure on that. Not the end of the world for Keon Coleman. First round pick if the draft was this Wednesday or Thursday? Probably not. But you know what? He's got pro day. So Keon Coleman can make money, but he's going to have to make money on the 22nd during pro day.
Braden Fisk of Florida State.
All right, he's jumped really well, as Charles mentioned. I think he's going to roll here.
Nice.
He's moving.
168.
Oh, yeah. Oh.
78.
Hey, now.
I think he knew he did well. I think he said, oh, yeah, as he crossed the finish, didn't he?
Oh, yeah.
Braden Fisk, 6'4", 292, 82. His NFL next-gen stat score breakdown combining his production, which was third, and his athleticism score first. Yeah, Braden, first, athleticism. Not just a motor, everybody. Not just a guy who tries really hard. Not just a coach's son. A guy like Braden Fisk. Yeah, athletic. Not even sneaky athletic. Legitimately athletic. 4.78 40-yard dash. Best out of all interior linemen. 33.5-inch vertical jump. Best amongst all interior defensive linemen. Broad jump. 9 feet 9 inches. Best among all available interior defensive linemen. What an absolute delight this guy was, right? We should have seen this coming. By the way, he continually smoked Mike Norvell in their pre-practice race day after day after day after day. Maybe Norvell's really not that slow. Maybe Fisk is just that fast. Daniel Jeremiah said, coming into the weekend, Fisk was firmly in the second round. A little bit coy, he said. Maybe even moving up. Love Braden. Love what he did. Not sure he's going to break into the first round. But second round pick? He's going to get a second contract, too, if he stays healthy. Because he's that athletic, apparently. And he's produced at Western Michigan for several years. At Florida State. Off the charts this season. And Verse had the big number, right? The 31 bench press rep. So it just glossed over the fact that Fisk had 26. Just 26. Sarcasm there. 26 bench press reps. Incredible. I think that might have been somewhere in like near the top 5 when it comes to interior defensive linemen. But when you were first and everything else, a little bit of a disappointment. Kidding, though. Braden Fisk, I think he made money.
Trey Benson of Florida State, first up last year.
Big back here. You see it, 216 pounds. And he's got burst and long speed. When you watch him, he pops a lot of long runs. So I think he'll do well here.
4.39 is definitely in the category of doing well here.
Trey Benson, 6 feet tall, 216 pounds. Big human. Runs really fast. 4.39 in the 40-yard dash. He also had a 33.5-inch vertical jump, broad jump, 10 feet, 2 inches. That 4.39, third fastest among all running backs at the Combine this past weekend. Trey's NFL next-gen stat score breakdown combining his production and his athleticism score, 80. It's number 1. It's first. It's the best. It's really good. Really, really good. Went into the weekend, some said probably the number 2 running back behind Jonathan Brooks from Texas, who's coming off an ACL injury that he suffered in November, but they still had him a little bit ahead of Trey. I think Trey looked absolutely aesthetically pleasing to every single personnel person out there. And then when they saw him run a 4.39, maybe moving up the board. Maybe moving up the board, you would think. Pro day, fairly pivotal. Looked nice catching the ball out in the backfield, which he did when he was in Lucas Oil Stadium, because I got to stop saying in Indianapolis because that's tough to say. That's going to be like the only knock on Trey probably, or one of the larger knocks on Trey. Can he catch the ball? Can he be a well-rounded, all-purpose running back? I think he can. I think he made money as well.
Jarian Jones.
He's going to be a nickel.
4.38.
Jarian Jones, McGee, Mississippi, Simpson County, McGee Trojans, but a Northwest Rankin Panther. No, Northwest Rankin Cougar. One-time Oklahoma commit, 100% committed to Oklahoma, goes to Mississippi State, transfer to Florida State. Best soundbite of the year that guy was all year long. We love Jarian on the program. We love our Mississippi guys. 6 feet, 190. 12th best score. Next Gen Stats NFL score breakdown combining his athleticism and production. His athleticism score, 4th. Production, 37th. Athleticism, 4th. Because he ran a 4.38 40-yard dash. Blazing. I can't believe it. Probably single most shocking result out of anybody from Florida State at Lucas Oil. I can't believe he ran a 4.38. 39.5-inch vertical, 10.9 broad jump. He had the 5th fastest 40, by the way, that 4.38. 5th fastest for Jarian Jones. Yeah, probably a slot corner guy. I don't know, man. Like 6th, 7th round pick, I was thinking Jarian best case. Best case. But you run a 4.38, you jump a 39.5. You interview the way you do. He's a likable guy. That stuff matters. I don't even know what you would do at Pro Day if you were Jarian. I guess do some backpedaling. You don't need to run a 40. You don't need to do a vertical. Maybe do a broad jump if you want to hit a 10-10 just to have the 10-10 mark. Bench press, irrelevant. Jarian Jones, 5th round pick. Let's go. Jarian made money.
And to give you the number they're going to fetch, it's 4.62. You're looking at the top tight ends and receiving yards. That was the average, and he is just underneath it at 4.61.
Okay.
Well done.
Jaheim Bell, Lake City, Florida. Y'all thought he was from Georgia. Nope, he's ours. He's ours. 6'2", 241 pounds. His NFL next-gen stat score breakdown. 5th best amongst all tight ends. 5th best amongst all tight ends. 4.61 40. 4th best. 10-foot, 4-inch broad jump. 3rd best amongst tight ends. So, not the most potent, athletic tight end group because Brock Bowers didn't participate. So, he's ahead of you. So, pretty much every single stat, you're one down because Bowers wasn't there doing stuff. So, you have to kind of process that sort of thing. Listening to the way that Daniel Jeremiah and Charles Davis spoke about Jaheim, respectful in tone, respectful but not revered. They weren't wowed. This is before he ran the 4.61, which was third best amongst tight ends. Jeremiah, the scout, formerly, now with NFL Network, seems to think that Jaheim's just not going to be able to maintain being a traditional tight end, at least the way you would think of one in modern day NFL. And I kind of get it because, I don't know, think about maybe the 10 best tight ends in the league. So those teams aren't going to need another tight end really, at least not early. And then the 22 other teams, how many of those teams do they think Jaheim Bell is better than their current tight end? How many of them are going to put a premium on wanting to draft a tight end that's better than their current tight end? I don't think you lost any money. But whatever your preconceived notion was of Jaheim Bell before the combine, it was merely reinforced.
Here's
Look at all these guys.
Deloach again. 4.47. Woo! All right.
Kalen DeLoach, one of three, I guess if you want to count Jordan, but truly two homegrown pieces of talent for Florida State at Lucas Oil this past weekend. He and Renardo Green recruited to Florida State out of high school, committed to Willie Taggart, did the 2019 season at Florida State with Willie Taggart, and then stuck around under Mike Norvell. DeLoach, maybe another Jaheim Bellish kind of performance where whatever preconceived notion he had coming into the combine, he sort of played it out. A little bit undersized, 5'11 and a half on the measuring tape, 210 pounds. 71, though. That was his total score, 15th amongst linebackers when it comes to his next-gen stats breakdown, which, again, your production, your athleticism score, we merge them into one. He was 15th best amongst all linebackers. Feel like that was not all that indicative of just how athletic Kalen can be. His jumps weren't great, though. 30 and a half on the vertical, 9.11 on the broad. That's going to bring you down. But he ran a 4.4740. That's second best amongst all linebackers. I think you pair that number with the production of what he's done at Florida State, and I know the jumps weren't great, but he's a linebacker, man. He's not a corner. He's not a wide receiver. I mean, 30 and a half is not good at all. I did a vertical. I think my vertical was 26 when I was I was like 28 years old. And that's 4 inches. But yeah, I mean, I wasn't trying to go to the NFL. I'm going to take a bright side approach. I'm going to surprise you all. I'm taking a bright side approach. I think you marry the 4.4740 to his tape and what he did on the field, plays like he made against Clemson, the way he played against LSU in 2022, and you're like, all right, we could use a linebacker. It's Sunday. Let's make the call.
Johnny Wilson is enormous wide receiver.
6'6", running 4.53.
That kind of Birdmanish. Johnny Wilson, everybody. Man, the wild card, the big enigma. No way he's going to run faster than Keon Coleman, right? No way he's going to jump further. Wrong. 6'6", 231, scooting 4.52. 40-yard dash. 4.52. 37-inch vertical, 10.8 broad jump. You mix all that up, you get the 39th graded receiver athleticism score. You combine that with his production, you're the 34th graded receiver according to NFL Next Gen Stats breakdown. I don't care, though, man. He's 6'6". He ran a 4.52. Johnny made money. And finally, trio of dudes, Tatum Bethune, Fabian Lovett, Jordan Travis. Jordan did not participate in any of the on-field workouts, obviously, because he is rehabbing his injury that he sustained against North Alabama. He did measure up. I'm sure he spoke to some teams. He was 6'1". He weighed in at 200 pounds. He has a 9-inch hand, though, everybody. 9-inch. Not great. They care about that thing, believe it or not. It's really weird. I don't make the rules, but they do. 9-inch hand. We'll see what Jordan can get done between now and draft day. I'm sure he'll be trickling out things whenever he's able to perform on the field through his representation. So we keep our fingers crossed and hope the best and realize that if he gets a shot, he's probably going to make the best of it and end up winning some games at the next level. Fabian Lovett, he too did not test out at Indianapolis. Did step on the scale, did line up against the wall. 6'4", 314 pounds. Big dude. Large human being. 10 3/8 inches hand. Like, think about somebody pressing their hand against your hand, everybody. Like, just put your left hand against your right hand right now, palm to palm. And just imagine your middle finger on the right is a full knuckle larger than the one on the left. And I still think that's probably about 1 3/4 or 1 3/8. Large paws. Pro day huge for Fabian Lovett. Huge. Put some numbers up. We'll see where we go from there. Tatum Bethune, he too did not test very much out at the combine. Did the bench press though. Brave man. Large arms. Long arms. 32 3/8. Put up 225 16 times at 229 pounds. 5'11 and a half. Those are his measurables. He too will look to put on a show March 22nd at Pro Day. We will be there. VitaminEnergy.com. Promo code WARCHAMP BOGO. WARCHAMP BOGO. Buy one, get one free. Vitamin Energy is the world's first clinically tested, clinically proven. I'm sure somebody clinically tested their shot, but they're like, oh, it's not that good. We're going to hide the results. But Vitamin Energies were so good that they're like, hey, we're going to put a new label on all of our drinks that's got a check mark that says clinically proven. I mean, I think that's called standing on business, is what the kids would say. Stand on a free promo code, everybody. Get 2 items. Just buy one, get one free. Piece of cake. WARCHAMP BOGO, the promo code. VitaminEnergy.com. 260 milligrams of all natural caffeine. That's it. That's the secret. I mean, that's what gives you the energy. But then there's the vitamins. There's the nutrients packed in every single bottle. Less than 2 ounces. You can take it anywhere you want. Put it in the fridge. Keep one in the gym bag. In the desk drawer. You can't go wrong. Try it. I'm pretty sure you're going to like it. Check it and take it. Energy with benefits. VitaminEnergy.com. Promo code WARCHAMP BOGO. We don't have Corey, but it's all right, everybody. We got Ira Schoffel. He's really the glue that keeps headlines together, and he's going to try to keep this show together for the rest of this week, kind of. We'll try to get you one more time this week, Ira, when we talk about the tour of duty. But thanks for taking time out. Managing editor of WARCHANT.com, Ira Schoffel. How was your weekend, friend?
It was great, man. I got to take part in the wedding of the century, so it was a good time, and glad to be here. Man, I know I can only carry a little bit of what Corey brings to the program, but I'll try to do what I can do.
Plenty. I mean, really the reason, again, thanks for taking time out to do this, Ira. Just, this combine thing was a really big deal, man. I mean, the fact they had 12 guys out there should have really been the red flashing siren. They're like, hey, this program is really back, and these players are worthy of notoriety. I'm not going to say who's the big winner, because I don't know. I guess like Braden Fisk would be the big winner. Let's start, I guess, with maybe just a kind of 20,000 foot takeaway from what Florida State was able to do in Indianapolis with the 12 guys who showed up. And I think 10 of them went through pretty much every single thing they possibly could on the field.
Yeah, I think it was like 2 different ways to look at it. From a macro level, I think it was just really impressive for Florida State to have that many guys there and to have so many of them do really, really well. Not just do well, but kind of be the leaders of their position groups. Like you said, Braden Fisk had the 4th fastest. He started off, the whole thing by being the fastest of the defensive tackles. Jared Verse looked great. Then you just go from there. Kalen Deloach put up fast times. The running Trey Benson, Johnny Wilson. I mean, all these guys had really impressive performances. Jarian Jones blew the doors off with his 40. And I think they look good in the position drills. So from a macro standpoint, Florida State, I think, just looked as good as Florida State football has looked since maybe late in the 2023 season, and kind of reminded everybody how good that team was. And then from a micro level, all those guys, I mean, so many of those guys, I think, did wonders for their stock, because, at the end of the day, they all showed they were really good football players this past season, or at least these past several seasons in some cases. And it's always great to back that up with hard data that, yes, I'm fast. Yes, I can jump high. I'm explosive. Those kinds of things, they don't help if you're not a very good football player. But for the most part, these guys were all really good football players who now have also tested really well.
Biggest surprise for me, I think, would be Braden absolutely blowing the doors off every athletic test out there. Like, I thought maybe bench press he would sneaky be the highest guy at the defensive tackle spot, maybe for him to have the fastest 40, the best vertical, and the best broad jump, that probably edges just past Johnny ripping off the 4.52 that he had on Saturday. Those are like the two huge big surprises to me, and it was great to see Johnny do that. I guess, how surprised were you? Either of those ones, like at the top of your list in terms of surprise performances?
You're definitely up there. I had a feeling Fisk would run well. But yeah, like you said, I mean, just to be all around so excellent in all the different drills. And then, another Jarian Jones I mentioned briefly before. I mean, I just, when you're a nickel corner, a lot of times the perception is maybe you're not as fast as the outside corners. And it's a little bit more of a, the being able to handle, the run fits and, helping out underneath and being, maybe having great agility, but not the straight line speed. For him to go out and run a 4.38, I thought that 4.37, 4.38, I thought that was super impressive. And then Trey Benson. I mean, again, like we all know he's fast. We saw during each of the last two seasons, you would see those things that the advanced metrics people put out of, what his top end speed was in some of these runs where he's running over 22 miles an hour. So you knew he was really fast. But again, like in the 40, it's so much about your start. It's a much more compact distance. And I didn't know that he would run quite that fast. So yeah, but across the board, man, they all just did really well. And a few guys didn't test. We assume Fabian Lovett, Tatum Bethune, a few of those guys will just do more of the tests at Pro Day later this month. But the guys that tested, man, across the board almost did really tremendously.
Yeah. Jordan, good news from him.
Yeah.
Clearly the boot's been off now for a few weeks. Sounds like he's going to try to be ready late summer. Just how cool was it to kind of hear from him and see that his progress is, I think it's kind of coming along according to plan here, Ira, because like breaking the leg, I mean, the ankle dislocation, breaking the lower leg feels like it's like one of those 6-month things. And if you kind of do the math, I mean, he was in the boot for like almost 3 months. So I mean, that's really encouraging to hear because we really had no details until he finally showed up in Indianapolis.
Yeah, and even there, he still is pretty coy about exactly what all damage was done. He just said, basically, yes, there was a broken bone involved, but he has been, and that's fine. It's his prerogative. It's his body. It's his health. He has not wanted to share the exact details of everything. But because of that, I think a lot of us thought maybe it was something that would be a year. Like maybe this is something that he really deals with for a year before he can really come back. And maybe if he gets drafted, it might be late in the draft because – a team is willing to invest in him for a year to see what he looks like next year. But yeah, man, I mean, it seems so much has happened since that injury. It feels like that injury was a year ago.
Yeah.
And so when he said he got the boot off recently, I was like, wait a minute, that's only been like just over 3 months.
Yeah.
Not that that's miraculous, but it feels like that was so long ago. And, you think about all the things that transpired, but since then are surrounding him and his health. And that's awesome. And he said that he thinks he's shooting for May to be back to full speed and the outside being June. So again, the draft is in late April. I don't know, man. Like I'm curious to see how he does in the draft. I thought he might be maybe 6th or 7th round, but shoot, I mean, if he's, cause he won't do much probably at Pro Day, but before the draft, he may be able to go to some camps, go to some facilities and be tested by their doctors. And if they're telling him, oh yeah, you're 2 weeks away, shoot, maybe he gets drafted higher. So that's awesome news. Like you said,
Jordan, if you need a video guy to chronicle your workouts, I mean, I want him. That's something that probably would happen too. I would think, Ira, just him working out there, his management team doing videos, putting on social media, showing him running around, doing things that show you that he's ready to go. So that really buoyed all the Florida State fans out there. I want to talk about Keon Coleman. What a Jekyll and Hyde, or just an absolute perfect way to kind of like redeem yourself, if you will. I don't know where Keon is. I feel like Keon might have the highest level of I can't find the proper term, but just in terms of variance, that's what I was trying to look for in my statistical political science background, Ira. Like he's got the highest level of variance, it seems like, when you look at all the mock drafts and stuff. And then he runs like a 4.6 4.4, I think, or maybe like a 4.62 was the second time that he ran it. And you're like, well, that's not great because everybody out there was ripping off 4.4s at wide receiver. But then he actually does like a football sort of drill, right? And does the gauntlet and he hits the top speed out of everybody that day, which like go figure. So, part of me is like, well, man, he's going to really have to do something special at pro day to make up for that 4.6. But for him to hit the top speed in that gauntlet drill, I feel like that has to supersede and almost definitely make up for it. At least that was my opinion on it.
Yeah, and I mean, to me, it's the classic combine kind of question between him and Johnny Wilson, right? Like, we saw them play, and I love Johnny Wilson, the fact that he's 6'6", 6'7". I mean, the catch radius is out of this world, and all that's amazing. But I've never once thought that Johnny Wilson was the better receiver than Keon Coleman. But Johnny runs a tenth of a second better. And now all of a sudden people are like, oh, what about Johnny Wilson? And it's like, yeah, that's awesome. But I don't think he ever looked clearly faster than Keon Coleman on the field. And Keon Coleman made some incredible catches. Johnny made some great catches, right? But Keon made some catches that, like, you're talking about all-time great catches. Yeah. So that, to me, if you're an NFL team, this is where I struggle with the draft and figuring out what they're going to do is, I mean, yeah, man, Keon didn't put up a great 40 time. Johnny did. So how do you handle that when you've seen them play on the field at the same time in the same team? So my guess is I would still rate Keon higher, but I'm sure he would have liked to have run a faster time. But then, like you said, running the gauntlet and looking smooth as hell, catching those passes. I mean, he looked, again, he's running full speed, 20-something miles an hour, and just catching every pass perfectly and effortlessly. So I don't think he, he definitely would have liked to run a faster 40, but there's still a ton there to like, I think.
Yeah, it was crazy. I think like Daniel Jeremiah was talking about Johnny and pretty much saying like after he ran that 4.5, like, oh, well, maybe he won't just be an inside guy. It's like I guess the knock on Johnny is that he was going to be too slow to play on the outside. So if he's not going to move to tight end, the closest thing would be to move him in line and then move him into like a slot position, which sounds like counterintuitive to everything that we've seen from slot receivers here in the past. But the biggest takeaway to me, I guess, was Johnny running a 4.5. Hope he's able to kind of parlay that into moving higher up on these boards. But I assume he's going to also go through pro day on the 22nd as well to try to boost his stock. Last thing, I guess, on that weekend part of things when it comes to the combine, Ira, I'm the one that I want everybody to kind of, and I get it's going to be tough to move on from the snub. I don't know if you're never going to fully get over it. The people that played on that team are never going to fully get over it. But man, like you had that great tweet with just, like the reaction of most Georgia players probably that were at the combine. Like, these guys played at Florida State. Like, I don't remember hearing about these guys, man. This team was special. And that's what makes this thing such a freaking bummer. Feels like Saturday and Friday and Thursday and every single day, somebody did something awesome out there. It really underscores just how special this team was. Just can they recapture what they had? I mean, or was this kind of a rare alignment of getting all these guys on board that had all the right tools?
Yeah, I mean, that was definitely a special bunch, man. Like, that was a special team because you had so many guys who, really were had gotten better or were guys that they hit on in the portal, the Trey Bensons and Johnny Wilsons and some of those guys versus some of the guys who developed, Renardo Green and Jarian Jones and some of those guys that were in the program for 3 or 4 or 5 years that really developed over time, kind of all came together for that one season. Plus then you went out and got, Keon Coleman is kind of the cherry on top. So that was a special group. But I think, you hope that one of two things or both of these two things is at play to have that group is, okay, a lot of people on social media right now are singing Josh Storms' praises, FSU strength and conditioning coach. And certainly he deserves a lot of credit because if they weren't running well, people would be killing him. So I understand it, but also, man, I think they also deserve credit for evaluating really good athletes. Josh Storms couldn't turn, just a normal person into this freakish athlete. I mean, so it's a combination of them identifying really good players and really athletic players and then putting them in a strength program to kind of accentuate it. And I think that's the result of it. So you hope that they can do that again. But I think, as you said, going back to the big picture, I think it really, it was kind of a validation, I think, to some fans and maybe some media of how good that team was. That it wasn't just a bunch of good. Because I don't know how you felt about it, but I think my feeling a lot of last season, really the last 2 seasons, was they've got a lot of really good college football players, but I didn't know how many of those guys were really pros. Like you've got some of these guys are 4th or 5th or 6th year college football players that are really good college football players, but do they have the top end speed? Do they have the measurables? Do they have what the NFL is going to want? And when you think about what they did at the combine, I certainly, I think I was underselling what some of those guys were athletically. That it wasn't just about culture and just about guys buying in and just about guys being in the system and becoming good players. They had some really elite talent on that team too. And it's, again, I think after the way it ended, I think it's gratifying to see that.
Yeah. It's just, the coach, I think doesn't have the pedigree of all the other coaches that have, that are active, that have won national championships or that are in the SEC, and that you are having to go to the transfer portal and pull all these guys from places, and that they didn't have great first institution resumes, guys like Johnny, guys like Trey, for whatever reason. So the fact that you saw it all that kind of connecting, it's like, well, it's the ACC, it's, it's smoke and mirrors. Right. It's really not like elite high level talent. But man, when the head coach gets courted by Alabama, when you put 12 guys at the combine, and then, man, that graphic that we had on the Warchant Twitter feed, there's like 8 dudes on there that were all top 5 at some measurable test at the combine. Like, you cannot undersell Florida State any longer. Like, no, there's no reason to, be in the dark on them. But if you were like, man, I need more time to process this. They were so far down into the lurch with Willie Taggart. Like, I don't really know what Mike Norvell's all about. It was Memphis. It wasn't, high level football. Like, those boxes are all now checked. And I think that's really what springboards you into feeling so excited about this upcoming spring and this upcoming season.
Yeah. I mean, I think when you look at, again, some of those guys that, we knew Jared Verse was going to test great. We knew, some of these guys were, what they've not only what they've done, but what they were physically. But you also turn them into really good football players. And I think to your point, yeah, man, it's a validation for everything. It's a validation for the program. Now, the trick is, can you keep doing it? And that's, if you go back to Florida State 10 years ago, this is, Jimbo Fisher had a run of 2 or 3 years of putting so many guys in the NFL. It was unbelievable. But then he couldn't sustain it. Like, for whatever reason, whatever the distractions were, he got distracted and couldn't replicate it year after year after year. And that's going to be the challenge. I mean, that's what, Dabo did for a pretty good long while. That's what Saban obviously has done better than anybody, but it's what Jimbo couldn't do. It's what Urban Meyer couldn't do. There are a lot of great coaches that couldn't sustain it. And so, we can say we assume Norvell's going to be able to do it, but we have to see it.
One other thing I want to get to before we talk about some hoops here, Ira, just this playoff expansion. We obviously know it's going to 12 teams this season. Sounds like they're more excited and thinking about the 14-team playoff more so than the 12-team that we're going to enjoy this upcoming season. What are your thoughts on this whole automatic bid situation? I think on Friday there was a story out with quotes from Sonny Dykes from TCU, Mike Gundy from Oklahoma State, pretty much saying it's ridiculous. I guess if they were going to a 14-team playoff, they want the Big Ten and the SEC to be guaranteed like 3 teams. And, it's a really good point. And Sonny Dykes, or I don't know if it was Dykes or Gundy that said, there's no sport that guarantees you like a bye or a spot in the playoff. And the fact that you would give like 3 to each of these conferences, do you say yes if you're the ACC or the Big 12? I mean, do you have any leverage to say like, no, we don't want to do this? Or are you just along for the ride at this point and you just rubber stamp everything that Greg Sankey and Tony Petitti want to do?
Well, that's the problem, right? I mean, like, that's the whole thing when the alliance was formed and, Jim Phillips from the ACC and the Pac-12 and the Big Ten kind of said, we're gonna balk and we're not going to go along with what the SEC wants to do. It all sounded good at the time, but it's what if the SEC decide? Because I mean, that's what Greg Sankey threatened at the time, was like, well, maybe we'll just have an SEC Invitational, or we'll just have our own national championship game, or in this case, maybe the SEC and Big Ten just say, you know what, we're just going to do our own. If you guys want to have your own, have at it. You can have as many spots in your tournament as you want to have. So that's the problem. I don't know. I think that it's one of those things where it's like, I don't know, man. It's kind of like you're playing a board game or something, and you think you're doing fine, and then you realize, wait a minute, he's got Boardwalk and Park Place, and he's got all the red ones and the green ones. Like, how did this all happen? And I think that that's where they're at right now. I think that all the power less. So yeah, on the surface, it seems unconscionable. There's no way they could go forward with this. But like you said, I mean, those guys kind of hold all the cards. I don't know, man. Florida State better get in one of those two conferences, man. That's all. That's all I know. By hell or high water, they got to get in one of those two conferences, and then it'll be everybody else's problem.
I know that's the crazy thing. Like, we're lamenting all this, but then once we finally get onto that yacht, we're gonna be like, oh, enjoy your canoe. Cool. Keep rowing that boat, guys. How you doing, Greg? Yeah, 3-3-2-2-1 format. So Big 12 and the ACC would be they get the 2 bids and then the highest ranked group of 5 teams. So
I mean, it's outrageous. Think about if if the third team sucks, that can happen.
Well.
I mean, I don't have any doubt that the SEC champion obviously needs to be there, and the second team, there's a good chance, probably, it definitely would need to be there, the top 14. But the third, it seems like a bridge way too far. And it's also like, why does it have to be guaranteed? If you're as great as you are, you're going to get it.
Yeah.
But man, when rich people like to stay rich. So
I guess maybe that is a little bit of to your point, that's kind of like a little bit of a risk, right? Because if they are so dominant, you are limiting yourself to just 3 teams in that situation. That's a wrap, man. You're only going to get 3 teams in. So maybe we should take it, because otherwise it's like, all right, Texas is going to make it, Alabama's going to make it, Georgia's going to make it, LSU's going to make it, Tennessee's going to make it. Sucks there for you, everybody else. But we'll see how that one goes. They'll talk about that one, as well as the in-helmet communication that's also on the table. And then I guess an actual 2-minute warning they're going to maybe go ahead and do in the second and the fourth quarter. So
real quick on the helmet communication thing, and I haven't really seen anybody talk about it because Norvell's not talking right now. But if you remember, we asked him about it. You might have been the one that asked him about it. I know he talked about it during the end of the season when it came up, and he was not a fan of it. Yeah. He doesn't want it. So that's interesting. I wonder what he'll say now. If he'll still be, I mean, and he said at the time he'll go along with whatever it is, but he didn't like the idea that we're going to go away from college quarterbacks actually having to have a brain, and know what's going on.
Well, it's funny because like the Kirby's like on the competition committee or whatever, and he's talking about it. He's like, I think it's a good idea. We'll see how it goes. We'll go really slow because we don't know how it's all going to unfold. And I think somewhere in that story, it said like, I think in the mid 70s was the amount of like approval it had within the coaching committee. Like 74% of coaches were on board for it. I'm like, well, the coach of Tallahassee doesn't like it. I wonder how many people he can get on board to maybe push back on it. So we'll see how that all works out, as that's like an April meeting with the NCAA folks. On the hardwood, though, Ira, Florida State took on Georgia Tech over there in the MAC, in the A. Didn't work out Florida State's way. Just big picture thoughts on Florida State. I think it's so hard to not be reactionary when you do this show every day, but I know you talk to Jeff on Mondays and then you do headlines on Tuesdays. I like the pieces. I like the way they played earlier in the month. You feel like Watkins gives you something really tangible and something you can build off of, and you like what Jackson can be for you, and Baba Miller with another season of conditioning and getting a little bit better around the paint. Where are you at right now in terms of like the vision? If you're Leonard Hamilton sitting down and talking to Michael Alford here in like 2 weeks, like what's the discussions about what you think you can be, what you need to do to get to where this program can enter some sort of transitionary period where everybody's kind of happy?
Yeah, I mean, that's the conversation. I think, unless it's happened already, and I don't know if it has happened already, but, he's entering the last year of his contract. So the conversation in most situations at the end of last season, Leonard Hamilton would have gone to the administration, or the administration would have come to him and said, hey, you've only got 2 years left. Let's go ahead and extend it another couple of years or whatever it is. They didn't do that, obviously, because, he's getting close to retirement age. Plus, they were really terrible last year. So next year will be his last year in the contract. So yeah, they would have a conversation and basically say, what do you want to do? And because you may start with like, hey, Leonard, what do you want to do? Do you want to coach that year? Are you looking to coach more than that? Because we may not be comfortable with that, and then kind of start from there. And I don't know. I think Leonard. Every indication I've gotten is that he'd like to keep coaching. That he's not ready to stop. But maybe he would be willing to say, okay, let's make that my last year. Or maybe he may say, no, I want another 2 years after that. Now that changes the conversation.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of Michael Alford's conversation with Leonard will be based on what Leonard wants. And if Leonard wants an extension, then I think it becomes a much different conversation. I can't imagine if you're Michael Alford, there's any scenario right now where you could give an extension based on what these last 3 years have looked like. So then it becomes, okay, well, what are you going to do if we don't give you an extension? So you kind of go down that path. I'd like to see, just because of all the things that are going on in the program, I don't think there's anything wrong with saying, hey, if you can keep this team together, like how solid are you that you can keep this team together? And maybe it's even talking to the players. Are you going to stay? Are you going to go? What are your plans? If you could keep the nucleus of that team together, Jameer Watkins and Chandler Jackson and Jalen Worley and Bobby Miller and the main core guys, then I wouldn't have a problem if they said, let's give it one more year and see what happens. But if Leonard's adamant that he wants another 2 or 3 years, then that can't happen. I just can't imagine you could give him an extension. Yeah. So that may change the conversation. So I think we kind of have to see how that all plays out. And then the other side of it is, even if Leonard wants one more year, if he's fine with one more year, and if they give it to him, what happens if all these kids bail? Because now players can leave whenever they want for wherever they want. So I could see a scenario where he stays, but I also don't think it's etched in stone because I think there's a lot of variables.
Yeah. I mean, how do you feel though? Like if you have Chandler Jackson back, Jameer Watkins back, Worley, Cam Corn, Bobby Miller, Primo Spears, maybe the light goes on, stays on, and then you just, you dip back in the portal, you pull 3 guys and you hope you hit on one of them and he's remotely close to maybe what Jameer is giving you right now. That's a 19-win team probably, right? It's 19, 20-win team maybe next year you're thinking? Or is that way too optimistic?
No, I think it could be for sure. Because if you think about this team lost a lot of games in November, December. And that's where their non-conference schedule killed them. But that was before they got Primo. And that was before they got Jalen Gainey healthy. And it was also before, some of the other guys kind of grew up some, from those first couple of months. So this team, if you look at this team from January till now, man, you would not fire that coach. They're basically a 500 team in the conference. Look at the conference standings. There's a hell of a lot of really good programs that have sub 500 conference records, and a lot of those coaches aren't going to get fired. So, I think if you had that whole team coming back and you added a couple pieces, and you wouldn't have that awful non-conference slate. Yeah, I think they're a tournament team. But again, there's a lot of what ifs there, that none of that's guaranteed, especially, with the rosters as they are now. I mean, Jameer Watkins, I got to imagine if Jameer Watkins isn't interested in trying to see what he is at the NBA, he's going to have a lot of schools reaching out to him this offseason. So, can Florida State even keep him? We'll have to see.
Last question on the way out. Is there an anecdote that you can share, highlight from the Clark wedding, Stephanie and Corey, that was just rub it in everyone's face that they weren't able to be there and you were one of the cool guys that was invited?
Wow. Besides you taking a family picture with the Clark family, that might have been it.
I literally I got up and I'm like, I do not want to be in this photo. And 2 of the family members like, come on, it's okay. And I'm like, absolutely not. And then Corey, when he realized what was happening and I was in it, just like the kindness of him, but also like the outlandish part of like, why are you in this photo with my family?
That's awesome.
Send me a copy. Corey.
It was awesome. I thought it was exactly what I expected, except for the first dance was unbelievable. And so the 2 guys that sang, and we tweeted out the video from the Warchant account. If you haven't seen it, go back and watch it. Maybe Aslan, maybe you could play the sound on the pod.
All right.
So it was the Aaron Neville, Linda Ronstadt song. I don't know much. And
I know how I love you.
so that is two of his best friends, Shane and Jason Braun. And Shane I've known for a long time. Jason's a guy that grew up with Corey, and I've known of him. And we all know all the same people, but he moved to Washington a long time ago, so we don't really interact. And so I had no idea that was coming. Did you have any idea that was coming?
Not at all. Like I saw out of the corner of my eye, I'm like, there's another guy coming on the stage on the dance floor right now. What is going on? And then
at the end when they started singing to each other, like Aaron Neville and Linda Ronstadt, I was dying. And then over on the side, there's just Corey and Stephanie dancing. So that was, that's the cliche, that's the given, but that's a memory I will never forget.
Did you indulge in the queso fountain?
Oh, I did. Not as much as I would have liked, but I did. When I went back later, they'd shut it down.
They did. Donut cake? Did you indulge in the donut cake?
Of course. Yeah, I had to. And I think that was not what I expected either. But no, it was quality. It was very much what you would think Corey Clark might come up with.
Did you give them a card? Did they have a wedding registry? What do the Schoffels give for wedding gifts? Just cash money?
They're taking donations, man, for their trips. Their trip. They're taking donations for their I think the honeymoon / Ireland / extravaganza. So yeah, we did that. They didn't register. They're I think they were just hoping to recoup some of their investments in their travel this summer.
It was a great wedding. It probably cost a lot of money. So
yeah, no doubt.
Defray the cost as need be. Hey, Ira, thanks so much for doing this. Can we hang out Thursday afternoon after we watch Tour of Duty and share our thoughts and insights and observations?
I can't wait, for sure.
Ira Schoffel, managing editor, warchant.com. Thanks, Ira.
Thanks, man.
MyBookie.ag promo code Warchant. What does the Warchant promo code do, Aslan? Get you an instant cash deposit bonus, everybody, when you sign up for the first time at MyBookie.ag. Let's look at Heisman odds, shall we? I think we got some movement. Carson Beck, Quinn Ewers still atop the board. Plus 890. Were they plus 890? I thought they were plus 910 last week. Well, they're plus 890 now, everybody. Cam Ward still plus 2,200. Why do you keep talking about Cam Ward, Aslan? I don't know, man. Because somebody paid a lot of money to have him come play football for them. DJ Uiagalelei, I think he's moving backwards. He's plus 3,300 now. I just don't get it. Why the disrespect to our friends in the Bahamas? Send these lines. I don't get it. Don't get it. We'll have the last laugh, though. Let's put a little bit of money on DJ. Not a lot of money. Maybe just a little bit of money on DJ. Plus 3,300. It's a nice payout. Very nice payout. Anyhow, promo requires $50 minimum deposit and rollover requirement of one-time deposit total, including your bonus for withdrawal. For full terms and conditions, visit mybookie.ag/about-us. And on the way out, you've heard my voice plenty today. Way too much. Should have had Corey probably voice at least one of those reads to break it up a little bit. But the Noles are 10-0, everybody. They won 3 games this past weekend. Friday was a rain out, so they played a doubleheader Saturday. They took out Michigan State in the afternoon game and then Illinois at night. Jamie Arnold got the start for Florida State in the Saturday afternoon game and did really well. Went 6 innings, allowed 7 hits, but no runs across. Noah Short came in to start the 7th inning, got touched up a bit, 3 hits, 2 runs, also walked the batter. So not great. John Abraham, though, true freshman, came in and closed things out for the last 1 1/3 inning. Only 1 base runner via walk. So maybe a candidate to be one of your, bullpen guys. Stretch things out, relievers, if you will. And then against Illinois, Cam Leiter only went 4 innings. And then it was like, all right, here comes Carson Dorsey, who they feel really, really good about. But he did not have a great outing. 1 1/3 as well for him. But he allowed 1 hit, walked 3, had a wild pitch, tagged the batter as well. Not great. That helped kind of spur a little bit of a rally by the Illini, although he did inherit a tough situation when they pulled Leiter in the 5th inning. But then Ben Barrett came in and threw 3 2/3, allowed 4 hits, nothing across, though. That was the big deal. That game, Florida State kind of was on cruise control. They were up 7-0. Illinois stormed back, got a little bit chippy, a little chirping from the dugout to the mound. But then Florida State iced them out and won that game 13-7. And then on Sunday, 8-3 final for the Noles, taking out Western Michigan. We stole Braden Fisk from you, and then we took you out on the diamond. How about them apples? Matt Salser started for the Noles. Not a great outing. Shout out to Link, though, for feeling out in the second inning and being like, this is not going to work today. Thanks for your services. Let's bring in Andrew Armstrong. I thought they were going to try to extend Armstrong a little bit longer than they did. He threw 31 pitches in 1 2/3, so he got him through 3 innings completely after what Saucer had done. Nothing across, no hits, no walks, and he had 3 punch-outs. He's part of the solution, we would say. Brady Lauk, 2 innings, allowed 1 hit. That was good to see. Did walk a pair of batters. And then Brennan Oxford came in through 4 innings, allowed only 1 run. It was earned, and 3 hits. So it's all about the bullpen at this point right now. You feel really good about Leiter and Jamie Arnold. I'm not going to say I think they're the best 1-2 punch. I think Corey said something along the lines. He thinks they're maybe one of the best 1-2 starters, tandem in the entire country. I'm not there yet. I will say something hyperbolic about Cam Smith. Man, he's special. I mean, he's going to, now that I said he's going to go like 2 for his next 13 or 2 for his next 19. But man, he's in a, I don't even want to call it a groove. I just think he's that developed. He's that polished. He's that refined right now. I don't know if stats have been updated yet, but right now they got him listed at batting .478. And I know it's not the greatest competition in the world. It's been Western Carolina, Butler, and then some Big Ten teams sprinkled in with USF and whomever else they played in the midweek so far. Jacksonville, I think. But Cam Smith is a problem. He is a problem in the lineup, everybody. James Tibbs, Jaime Ferrer doing things, Drew Farreau. Max Williams had some extra base hits on Sunday. They've got a really well-rounded lineup. We knew that. Link said as much. It all comes down to what they can get from the bullpen. If Andrew Armstrong can kind of be a 6-out guy max for you, maybe, he got him 5 on Sunday, and that was enough to maybe get some positive momentum rolling for Florida State. But it feels like they like Oxford, obviously. Carson Dorsey did not have a great weekend, but you still feel good about what he can possibly be. Andrew Armstrong, Ben Barrett seems to be emerging as one of the more reliable options they have coming out of the bullpen. So it's still March. Man, you want 4, like in a perfect world, probably to be able to trust to come into these sort of situations. They're on their way to finding those 4 guys. I don't know exactly who it's going to be, but you feel really good about Ben Barrett. You feel really good, I think, about Andrew Armstrong right now. Brennan Oxford was a really good pitcher before last year, so maybe he's rediscovered some of his stuff, and that's why he's going to be successful this year. And then listen, man, they still haven't figured out what they want to do with Connor Whitaker, and Connor Whitaker is really good. I don't think he's going to be your midweek guy when you're in May and June. Probably your Sunday guy, and then when you start getting to a regional, fingers crossed, man, you feel good about Arnold and Leiter, and then you can have a guy like Whitaker come in there and help you out, maybe throw 3-4 innings if one of those guys can't finish the drill. Things look really good for Florida State right now. Next up for the Noles this weekend, New Orleans, University of New Orleans. I think they might be the Privateers, something nautical related, something naughty. But before that, they've got Florida Gulf Coast coming to town. The Eagles, they're 4-7 right now. Not doing great. It's coming off a weekend where they lost to Xavier. They lost the series to Xavier. They did beat Miami, though, on Wednesday, so that's pretty cool. They also lost to TCU to start the season, got swept out there in Fort Worth. So that's the midweek Uno on the weekend, and that's a wrap. Look at that. You made it through about like 45 minutes, probably me talking the whole time. Painful. Probably no interview this week. I'm just going to drop an interview if it happens. I'm not going to tease him anymore because everything keeps falling through and our pets' heads are falling off. But we're done over here. Jeff Cameron Show, though, powering through, breaking it all down with the Combine. Ira will also be doing a hit with Jeff on Monday, as he is to do usually. We'll be over on warchant.com, the ultimate Seminoles sports source. Again, Tour of Duty Thursday. We'll have all that over on the website, and they'll do a podcast wrapping things up on Friday. Anything else that happens in the world of Florida State sports that's going to happen over at warchant.com, we'll have you covered at all times. For Ira, I'm Aslan, and for Corey, sipping on a drink somewhere in Nashville, we're thinking, hopefully. Thanks for listening to Wake Up Warchant, presented by Corner Pocket Bar and Grill.